Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. Okay. Citizens who wish to address the council on any matter may sign up to do so prior to the meeting. So if you haven't signed up and like to make a comment, please do so right now. Public comments will be received during this portion of the meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. No discussion or decisive action will be taken by the council if it's not on the agenda. That's by state law, not by our choice, okay? Who has the list of signees? Anybody, Jesse, would you mind bringing them up to me, or Kerry? Thank you, sir. Oh, man, I'm gonna put my glasses on here. Okay, Mark, I guess you're the first one on the, you want to be first? You'll state your name and address, please. I'd appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Mark Allen. I live at 48 South Cliffwood Circle. I'm actually here tonight on behalf of a neighbor and friend, Jim Ann Durkee, who also lives on Cliffwood Circle, I believe 52 South Cliffwood Circle. And Jim Ann couldn't be here tonight. She's out of town, but her question on the master plan was she noticed that the company is a New Jersey-based company, and she wanted to know whether we had talked with any local companies about similar engineering firms, and she was just concerned that we were having a firm from New Jersey doing the master plan for for our city here in Texas.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it, sir. I think we'll address some of that here shortly because that is on our agenda for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Linda, where are you? Here you are.
Change my glasses. So my name is Linda Bridges, and I'm 197 Lake Forest Drive, and I'm also a volunteer for the new EDC Business Network. And I'm here today to encourage our city council to vote yes on the proposed community master plan that will help our city leaders manage growth and change. A planned city is a well-prepared city. Morgan's Point is growing, and I don't think we can stop the growth, but I know with expert advice and reasonable recommendations, we can manage both residential and business growth. Part of the process for the master plan is to interview residents. This is a great way for us to express what we want from Morgan's Point. Most people moved here for the small town feel and freedoms that we enjoy, both as residents and business owners. We want to keep Morgan's Point Resort lifestyle we've all become accustomed to, but we also want a nice, clean environment to raise our children and live out our golden years. If you've been on social media lately, I'm sure you've heard all the complaints. Everything from problems with drinking water, stormwater drainage, to the never-ending pothole complaint. If we want things fixed, we're going to have to pay for it in some way. And if I have a choice, I'd rather not pay more property taxes. So as a supporter of small business, let's support current and future small business and work with them to bring revenue to our city and ease the burden on property owners. I've had a chance to look at the 1994 master plan. It was completed by volunteers, and it was quite an undertaking. It's documented that the volunteers worked hard, but always seemed to encounter many difficulties. There was even a lapse in work for over 3 years. It took 8 years to complete. So I admired these volunteers. They did intensive research for the 1994 plan, but I think that the new one should be taken on by a professional. So urban planners bring expertise, fresh ideas, and specialized skills. So I urge our city council to vote yes on a proposed plan. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Jeremy, I'm gonna put you up here on your turn. And I address you by your first name. If that's not appropriate, please remind me, and I'll be more formal.
Call me whatever you
I feel
want.
like we all know each other here, so I'm sorry about that, but that's the way I do it. You got it.
As long as you don't call me dear or honey, I think we'll be all right.
I'm gonna make a note of that.
I just want to personally invite all of you all to our Christmas Eve candlelight service, which of course is this Friday, December 24th at 6 p.m. I've got a card, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it out to the city council, and for everybody else, I'll just leave them on the table back here.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lynn, it's your turn. I put you on, you're on the agenda, so I'll put you there at the end, so,
Hi, I'm Lynn Milam, 28 Morgan's Point Boulevard. I'm here representing the Morgan's Point Resort Cops organization, and this is kind of going to be a little quarter because last time the Airbnb talk run me out here. I would like to tell y'all some of the things that we've done and how this all started. It's about a year ago now, and myself, two other gals, and Chief Klein had a meeting, and that's how the Morgan's Point Resort Cops came. We were paying it all out of pocket for ourselves at first, you know, to get us a 501(c)(3), everything, anything we done was out of our pockets because we had no money. And COVID started, then we had no way to make any money because there was, you know, you can get out and have a charity event or things like that. But come October, this October, we started. And the first thing we did was with Pastor Jeremy letting us use his parking lot. We had a big countdown to Christmas sale. We invited vendors here, charged them, and then they had a garage sale on the inside for the fellowship church, looking for money towards their bus. That went over great. Thank goodness for Mr. Gossett here, who was a big supporter of us and bought a lot of baskets for Christmas for, I'm sure, family members for you. And he was wonderful, and we had a good time. And then we did our first ever Morgan's Point cook-off by the Morgan's Point Cops, not Ladies Auxiliary, not Fire Department, it was the cops. And once again, that was, you know, we had no money, so it was all us, donations, this, that, and the other, and the city helped us a lot, thank goodness. BJ and staff, I couldn't even thank them enough. But that turned out really, really, really well for the first year, and we have already been approached. I was called a couple days ago to sign up for this next year, and we are going to be what they call a quad city. They only allow 4 cities in Texas to be a. It's where they're recognized where the people that travel and cook in all these things all over Texas, they get points towards a big prize at the end. And there's only 4 cities that it matters, and we are one of those cities. So this next year, we had to pay more for that, and they have to compete in all 4 cities in order to be able to win that big money at the end. So we will be one of those quad city events next year. We've had nothing but, we've had so many well wishes from people and how well it went, and we had a great time. And then at the end of the month, once again with Fellowship Baptist Church, we had the 2nd annual trunk or treat. The city helped us again this year, and still COVID kind of thing, and little leery on opening up the big thing like we usually do, and it went fabulously. We stuffed 1,200 bags of candy for us, the cops, the actual police that had a booth next to us, the firefighters, and just it was a huge success. It was really, really great. And because of that, and then for December, let's skip to December, for the Christmas party on Friday, the cops, we had the table for crafts while the kids wait to see Santa. It's another thing that we pay for that ourselves, and countless nights set up painting snowmen, looking at elves, and all this other stuff for the little kids come through. And we had 200 kids come through the line. And they were tickled. Just tickled. So it went really well. But I'm going to stop talking about all that stuff. But I'd like Pastor Jeremy to come up here because of how nice and God, you've been very Christian, man, and you've done a lot of good things, and we'd like to present you with this check towards your bus.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn.
Jesse, your turn.
noticed their T-shirts. I love it.
Come on this side. Come on. Good evening, everybody. Everybody doesn't know this is Cody, Jordan, Landon, and Dan. This is our utilities department dream team here for the city. And earlier, a couple months ago, we were tasked with inventory and surplus items to go to auction. Amongst those items was a hydrant, a fire hydrant. Been broke and removed, sitting behind our building a couple years. These guys, they thought they could do something better with it than just send it off to auction. So they decided, brainstorming over a couple days, to have a raffle, raise some funds, and to donate those funds to the library. The volunteer group keeps a really great library. They do events like the artist show. And most of all to us, they do the kids' reading programs in the summer. Teaching children to read is a really great deal. So tonight we want to draw the winner and see who wins our fire hydrant. And we'd like to invite Councilman Knuckles. He's both a councilman and on the library committee. So we'd like him to draw the winner.
Gonna deliver it?
Yeah, delivery service.
Fire truck's gonna deliver it.
Oh, sorry.
Drum roll.
Yeah.
Kathy Dennison. Kathy Dennison will contact tomorrow and phone number is not here tonight. Ready to go, Kathy?
All right.
I'm so disappointed.
Thank y'all for what you do. That's great. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate y'all.
We appreciate the library and what the volunteers do, especially for the children in the summertime. So that's where our hearts are at, trying to help out.
Good. Thank you.
Tom, you wanted this. You got it. You're the. Yep, you. It's your turn.
Tom Edwards, the Courthouse. I'm here really to support resolution number 6. Dennis asked me to go ahead and do this up front while I'm still away. And so I do want to highly recommend that you reappoint the 3 board members of the EDC whose terms expire at the end of this month. We have a very good, strong, balanced, energetic board. And one of them is here, well, 2 of us are here, 2 of us are here tonight. One, who's on the list to be reappointed, Debbie Bates. Debbie is our treasurer, has made tremendous contributions to the work we've done. She's a pain to work with when it comes to, when it comes to spending money. But I have to remind her, it's our job to spend the money, that's what we're here for. The tax dollars come in and we spend it on projects for the community. Right, Debbie? It's not our money, but she keeps track of how it gets spent and makes sure we don't spend too much. And we highly recommend that she be reappointed. The other 2 are Jeff Davison. I'm sure most of you know Jeff. He's been on the board, 4 or 5 years. I should have looked it up. He's our banker. He's the city's banker. So we want to keep him around. When we need some money and Debbie doesn't have enough, we borrow it from him. And at least one time we've done that. But he makes other contributions. I know some of you ate several of the hamburgers that he and his wife fixed out here on the parking lot a month or so ago. And we want to keep him around for that sort of thing. And Mike Fletcher is the 3rd. Mike is an architect and a structural engineer. He made significant contributions to the structural work that was done on our Clapus Park project. He came in and upgraded some of the specifications, made sure that concrete was better than had been originally specified, had more steel in it. Look at the sidewalk. It's green compared to what's in the curb, and it's, it's there to stay. And Mike makes contributions in other ways, but I want to keep him on that board mainly because of his knowledge and skill for that sort of thing. So when you get to that agenda topic, I hope you'll reapprove those three. There's a fourth board member whose term expires, and his name is Tom Edwards. And he has decided to step aside and not have a sixth term, 10.5 years. We need somebody else to come in and add new blood, add new insights and energy to the board. So there'll be an opening on that board after December 31st. I think the first topic of, or maybe the second agenda topic when the board meets in January will be to make a recommendation to come back to the city council to fill that spot. We have several highly qualified candidates who want to do it. It's wonderful to have people saying, I'd like to do it, instead of me having to go twist arms to fill a spot, which has happened a time or two years ago. That's why I'm here. But while I'm up here, there's two other things I'd just like to say. First is thank you for the opportunity to have served. I appreciate it. There were days I didn't appreciate it, but most of the time it's been fun, and we've accomplished a lot in the last 10.5 years. I did a 10-year annual. We just created a handbook for all the board members and gave it out at our October meeting. And the consultant who helped us with it asked me to put in our last annual report. We've never done an annual report. I didn't know we were supposed to. We keep learning. But I did a 10-year report, and it's in that book. And when you realize the things that got done that wouldn't have got done without the EDC, it adds up, and we're proud of those accomplishments. And the third thing is just to say Merry Christmas to the City Council. The EDC has a gift that we're going to present, and we got two strong guys lugging it over here. Maybe just, okay. This is a quarter, this is a quarter size sign that documents the history and mainly the prehistory of Morgan's Point Resort. This was a project we started several years back, trying to get ready for the 50th anniversary of the incorporation of Morgan's Point, which was a year ago, July 1st. And that celebration never happened. The work wasn't complete either. And I want to give a little credit for the people that really started this. Rick Holmes was the inspiration for digging around and trying to find out, now, who was the mayor of this place, 40 years ago? Well, we have all 10 mayors listed. Over the 50 years, we've had 10. One served twice. That's just a little thing, but I want to point out some of the bigger things that are documented on this sign, and the full-size sign, of course, is out here in the park and in the front yard. But James Edward Morgan, there's not a lot. Well, I did as much research as I could, and there's not a lot to be found. I couldn't find a picture of him. I think I know where his grave is, but I'm not sure.
Tom, we need to move through a little faster, please.
Okay. I
We got a
just
lot
want
on
to
the
point
agenda.
out the key points of his history and his son's history, and he had 7 sons. But Frank Morgan was the most significant in terms of the history of Morgan's Point, and that's documented on this sign. So I just encourage you all to become a little more knowledgeable about the history by reading that timeline. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
People, a lot of people don't realize Tom is responsible for that park out here. I mean, he's put a lot of effort into it, and it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him and the youth of Cheyenne. Those two individuals were responsible for that. Primarily, Tom led the whole thing the whole way through. Tom, we appreciate you for what you've done, and thank you for serving on the EDC as you have. And
There you go. Kelly, we need to stand for you.
say that because I served with him just about the whole time. And,
Actually, Tim, 20 seconds more about what's on this sign. One of the little things on that sign is an original membership of the Morgan's Point Resort Racket and Yacht
Oh, yeah.
Club.
Uh-huh.
And when you bought a lot during the sixties, before 1970, you bought a lot out here, you got an automatic membership. And a copy of that membership card is of Larry Gossett.
really,
There's other significant things on that.
Ah, that's cool.
thank you very much. We
We
appreciate
got the
it.
big pen. Where'd the big pen?
Okay, next, Ken, we're looking for a report from, I thought I'd been here earlier. Oh, there he is. From Planning and Zoning.
Evening, council members. Our report from Planning and Zoning Committee, we met during a special session on December the 7th. During that meeting, we had two items that we really discussed quite lengthily. One of them had to do with the special use permit application process for short-term rentals. And a lot of questions came up back and forth, and Dalton was able to help us work our way through that one. We definitely wanted to move that forward for city council consideration. Planning and zoning also wanted to move forward the consideration of hiring Collier's Engineering and Design to develop and assist in the update of the Morgan's Point Resort Master Plan. As y'all know, the master plan is back in 1994, and we feel like someone that has their type of expertise will help Morgan's Point bring that forward. Just so you know, our understanding is that the gentleman that will be doing most of the work for Collier is a Texas A&M graduate and will be a local Texas individual, which will help us out with being able to move that to a more final stage. So that's my report, and Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda is the short-term rental packet. That is to be voted upon. Dalton, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, so the short-term rental packet, of course, I hate bringing up opening wounds again in December, before the holidays. Merry Christmas. But in all seriousness, though, I think, with P&Z, talking with staff, kind of doing some research around the community, we don't have all the answers. We're still figuring those out just like every other community is. So one of the things that we kind of came up with is, one, a checklist for city staff. If you come in and ask for a packet, you have a packet that goes to you that helps us better track it so we understand the staff time that's going into it, what's happening. But more importantly, also, we make sure that we gather the data into it. Not to over-regulate, because I know that was some of the concerns of it, but simply so we can track the information. Any small business that comes in is doing it, whether it's the health district, whether it's a certificate of occupancy, every small business does it. All we're doing is kind of aligning the short-term rental process with it. So it's kind of twofold. The checklist itself, one thing that's not on the fee schedule, which that'll come to another item, we can talk about that later. This is a living, breathing document. We know that this isn't the end-all be-all. The actual inspection checklist in here is something that we can continue to evolve and modify. Really, from the adoption standpoint of council, the fee side is obviously what the important side of the adoption for council is. This is really a discussion point of, if y'all like this, we can do this administratively, because this itself is not the fees tied to it. The fee schedule is the fees tied to it. But wanted to present this to council, and we'll call it the 98% complete form. Obviously, there's some grammar, some other things, that we need to adjust on. But we wanted to put it in front of council, wanted to see, is this the direction that y'all are kind of happy with going in a system that we are going to have very difficulties regulating? We already know that. But how we can try to work together with these short-term rental, with these businesses, just like any other small business, how do we bring them in, work with them, so that way the businesses themselves hold each other accountable for the right reasons, and we, the city and council, partner with our small businesses. So I'll leave it at that.
Keep in mind, this is a living, breathing
Correct.
organism right here, so it can change and it can be amended next council meeting.
And really, this application itself, since there's no fees tied to it, ideally, if we see things that that's not working, we really don't even need to. I mean, if we're taking, a line out of information or adding a line or something, The information that we'd be evolving out of this document is not something ideally that would warrant, I would say, council, in it. We're not adding fees, we're not changing fees. That's gonna be in the fee schedule on a different section. This is really we wanted y'all to see a packet that if you come in and say, I want a short-term rental, we hand you this packet and kind of start going through this process. It helps guide staff to make sure that we're covering all our bases with planning, with reporting, with public hearings, with notices, the whole 9 yards.
Donna, did you have a question?
Yeah, no, I just had 2 comments. Thank you for all the work that y'all have done on this. This is tremendous. I just had a couple of comments maybe we could add to it. When you're looking at the checkoff list for the people, a copy of the lease, let's put if applicable. The reason I say that, it's not always short-term rentals that we're talking about for specific use, and we can use the same thing for any specific use.
And that's something that we absolutely can do. So this was kind of, we created this specifically for the short-term rentals. We can evolve this into more specific
right.
use across the board and make it, kind of living.
And the only other thing that I would say is, I know when I worked on a couple of these, when we didn't have a city manager, our city attorney taught us to treat it like zoning, so you do have to send letters to the entities. So if you want to add that to the office use.
I think we did the 200.
Yeah, but there's
200 foot
entities
certified
like,
water- so basically to homes and entities?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
too easy.
And it's a great document. I appreciate y'all working on this and getting it together.
Bruce, I think you had a question, didn't you?
Yeah, again, I would just wanna echo that, it's a great document to start with, and it looks like a lot of work was put into it, so definitely appreciate that. One question I had is the application fee, the $500. I guess it's the intention that that's a once and done thing at the time that you apply, or is that gonna be annually to cover future inspections? Are we planning to do future inspections, or this is a one-time thing?
I'm gonna leave that up, and I think that's probably gonna be one more for the fee proposal thing. Even though we have it on here, if, let's say council says, no, we don't wanna do it. So, don't wanna jump too far ahead, but $500 would be for all specific use permits across the board, not just this. We are proposing a $250 annual fee, and so we look at it just like health inspections or other things. We're still doing some research on it. We're recommending it mainly for staff time, but I think this is where we have to, we're trying to find that balance, talking with, again, both sides. Some short-term rentals are like, hey, it's a business, and we value this, and that way, if we do need to regulate in the very careful way that we possibly can, we would have the support of other short-term renters that agree with the methodologies of what the city's doing. So we are proposing in the fee schedule the $500 and a $250 annual fee, and that's really for staff time processing. The $500 would cover the first year or first inspection and everything. We still are figuring out how the tracking of that comes. Carrie's working on a book that basically is gonna have all the short-term rentals. Again, this is where the dates come in, where we make sure we wanna track the dates, track the notifications. Again, we wanna be advocates. We don't wanna over-regulate. We just wanna align just like we would. If you have a restaurant, the health district's coming in, so we're trying to balance those fees and what they look like. But we are proposing the 500 initial and then a 250, but.
So, this is a pretty inclusive checklist, which is very thorough. So I guess my question would be partially to Neil is, when we go through and do all these things, and we check these things off, yes, everything's good, is there any liability tied into that with the city?
Correct, and so that's a great question. That's opening up a whole can of worms of code and stuff that we want to dive into later on liability and accountability. We put the overkill document, I'll just be honest, we poached this one from somebody. We put the overkill one in there so y'all see the end-all be-all. We don't want to cut anything out. We can. So as we start evolving on this, if there's suggestions that we have, we put it in front of P&Z, we made some changes. There's one on here we didn't pull out yet that talks about property management. We're gonna pull that out because it's kind of a moot point. So once we get everything kind of done and finalized, we'll send it out and kind of go. This piece right here, I'd say, is probably the more administrative piece for staff to help us better serve our customers and businesses. The fee piece will be separate, and whatever comes out of that, we update discipline.
Anybody else have anything, Sean?
So, I don't understand, why are we voting on this now if it's like not set in stone?
Well, we can make it set in stone, really. So, because, and Neil can help out with this, there's no fees associated with this. So really ideally, if we didn't even bring this and we just said, hey, this is kind of the process that we want to do just to kind of better serve our customers, administratively, we could probably do it. But because of the inspection piece, because of the CO and the business side, really I wanted to bring it to council, just say, hey, is this the direction that y'all are okay with? As controversial as this topic has been, do y'all as a governing body and council representing the city agree kind of with this direction? And then yes, and if y'all say, hey, this is great, this is a good start, we'll pivot accordingly. If y'all say, throw it in the trash, then we go back to square one and figure out the next step.
Larry, do you have anything?
No.
Robbie?
No, I mean, again, it's a start of a.
It's a starting point, it's a starting point, so.
And really, bottom line was, and this is a big issue we had, and even after we've gone through the process, if you came in and said, hey, we want a short-term short-term rental, what do we do? We don't know. Even though we've done it, there was never really like a checklist. So the checklist piece was for us, but also to make sure too, that we're doing our due diligence for our customers and our businesses.
Doctor, do we need to vote on that as we can, I didn't realize that. Would you
Y'all-
feel
y'all-
comfortable if we
yeah.
did? Would y'all wanna vote on it?
It is, and
To
we know that
proceed-
there are some things
To
that we
proceed with it as it is?
You know, I guess what we're voting on is to give you
Direct-
permission to pursue this.
Right.
And to move forward with it, not necessarily that this is a set in stone document, but it's a process
Correct.
that we're gonna build upon.
Exactly, because any form we have, we update as needed. I mean, if we start seeing changes, as long as it doesn't impact fees or monetary things or any of that, we update it to make sure that we provide the best customer service. That's really what this is.
I
And
will
the
need
fees.
a motion to accept,
I'll make a motion, we accept.
okay? Do I hear a second?
second.
Larry seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, next, Kenan, thank you for your help too. That's, I didn't mean to ignore you right there when you slipped back, but I know y'all have put a lot of work into this and other things too, so thank you for your help.
I appreciate it,
Okay, next thing is item number 3, resolution 2021-.27. Everybody's always heard that if you don't have a plan, if you fail to plan, you're gonna plan to fail. Well, with that comment there, I'm gonna turn it over to Dalton, because we're gonna take it from there.
Thank you. Real quick, 10 seconds. In y'all's packets and on the website, you're gonna see something new. Kind of like the executive summary we had at budget. We're gonna start implementing in January pretty much every agenda item we'll call it of significance, which is almost everything, is gonna have a memo associated with it, either by the respective department or from the city manager's office. The goal of this is if you, as council or residents, just read the memo, it's gonna provide all the good, the bad, and the ugly, the transparent information on it that highlights ultimately what is gonna be in that packet. So it's just another opportunity, one, for us to go through it. So you're gonna start seeing these again more in January. So the master plan, I want to introduce Kelly Locke. He's with Collier's Engineer. One of, I know the kind of concerns was, one, the out-of-state, and two, two, making sure that we fall in line with the law. Under the Professional Services Procurement Act and the Texas Procurement Act, from the engineering side and the state statutes, we fell in line with everything appropriately in the procurement of the engineering services or the planning services. The biggest qualifications that the state statute says is, are they a qualified entity, and is it of a reasonable price? So, again, one of the concerns is, well, what's reasonable? Well, that's very subjective, but that's one thing that city managers do, myself and our staff and our team do a great job at, is reaching out to other cities who have done this before. As we've kind of alluded to, the last plan was done in 1994. About 8 years old. Somebody was telling me today that it even started in the late 70s, which would then push it beyond 10 years potentially. Well, I don't know. I read the document. The document stated Phase 2 started in 1986. So that's the point that I've gone off of, was 1986. So 1986 to 1994, a lot happens in 10 years. Collier's Engineering brings a wealth of experience, in this. And, staff recommends this, going with Collier's. With the rate schedule, even though we're totaling the 150,000, we're putting a little bit of contingency in there. One reason why we're doing that, and again, council doesn't have to do that, we could go back to a budget amendment if it exceeds that, is we don't have GIS services up and running. So there's opportunity to add economic development GIS services, like build out shape files. So right now, on our land use stuff, we're working on building out our GIS system. It's brand new, we're trying to get it up and running and implemented. So we don't know what additional support or shape files or opportunities that there are until we start really going through the process. So I'm derailing myself real quick. So the scope of services, and the reason why we're looking at them, is they're gonna be doing 3 community engagements. We chose 3 instead of the initial 2. We decided to add 1 to the scope of services, 2 for Morgan's Point Resort, and 1 for Moffett Unincorporated County. And the reason why we wanted to include Moffett Unincorporated County is it still is part of our ETJ. So even though it's in our ETJ, and there's, the state's kind of loosely trying to dissolve the ETJ component of it, we want to make sure that we include them in the process if they're still in our ETJ until that time. It would be open for anybody, Morgan's Point Resort, but we wanted to add another community engagement piece within our ETJ, especially with the voluntary annex side of things. The other one is, of course, P&Z, the community and committees will be 100% involved in the process. It's not just fire and forget. You don't just throw it down the road and say, hey, Colliers, complete it and do it. The range of, through research, the range of cost for these range from anywhere from $90,000 to $300,000. And typically they're done every 5 years on average, give or take, as far as updating the comprehensive plan. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm saving them for
So when we're really looking at it from 26 years from the last master plan, you know, the 150,000 that we're proposing, or if council, you know, chooses to just do the 127,000, either way, it's ballpark and it's within the range that typically these master plans get updated on. Having the plan is again, one of the most important pieces. So here's the full transparency piece, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Are they the end-all be-all? No. We could throw a dart at an engineering firm and ultimately we could find somebody, whether that's local. What is local? I mean, it's gonna go to Temple or Belton sales tax anyways. It's not gonna go to Morgan's Point, so it's local-ish. This is just my kind of philosophy on it. We had some of these things in other cities. I think it's good to bring the competitive outside sometimes to see what new can come out, you know, what other added value can come out. But again, council can go any direction. From the competitive bidding side, it's not just, there's actually, in the engineering services piece and the planning services, there's actually not the competitive bidding. We don't go out for sealed bid on this. We can't just go out and say, hey, give us all your stuff and throw it out unless we do a formal RFP, which is a request for proposal. And so really council can go any direction. We are looking at Colliers. They're doing some work out in the Moffett area now with some other development, just through some other entities. We met them at TML, kind of just, hey, we're doing stuff in Moffett, and you're like, y'all are global. What are you guys doing in Moffett? It's kind of how it started. But I think the other side too, and one of the reasons why staff's recommending Colliers, is they're not just creating a plan. It's not just a plan, hey, here you go, Morgan's Point Resort. We're gonna do this plan, and this is what the city could look like. Here's your story map, and this is what you could grow up to be. They're also the firm that can bring the investors to the table. They're the firm that can kind of help implement the plan that they're creating. So there's involvement in it, not just an idea. So it could come to fruition. Where, from my experiences with other engineering firms, you typically don't get that same result. You have to then take the plan and really dive into it on your own with, you know, economic development, with all this. We still have to do that, but when you have somebody that's invested in that plan, it's a little bit different. Again, not the end all be all. There's a million different ways that we can go, and I know this is a big ordeal. Again, the last one we did was in 1994. It's about $5,600 a year if you would have saved up each year to come up with $150,000 over the last 26 years, give or take. So that's kind of my spiel, and I will definitely open it up to questions.
Do we need to
and
bring
concerns.
this up to, open this up to, accepting, you know, we need a motion to accept this plan, and then discuss it. I think we're a little bit
Correct, so.
I need a motion to accept it, and then we're gonna open it up for discussion, okay? But we need to discuss it, so I need to have somebody make a motion to accept resolution 2021.27, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, after we talk about it, then we'd have to reseed our.
We're not gonna vote on it, I'm just asking you to accept the motion.
Yeah, so the parliamentary rule, loosely stated or ideally stated, is you make a motion to discuss it, somebody seconds it, or somebody just talks about it, you discuss the whole thing, and then you vote on it.
Then you vote
and
on
either
it.
dies. So if nobody makes parliamentary side. Neil can confirm that. We typically do, most cities do it backwards, where they talk about it and then make a motion,
Yeah.
second, vote.
Theoretically,
Normally,
you're
it's
supposed to have
motion,
a motion.
second, talk, vote, but.
That's the reason I brought it up a little bit different, because theoretically, we're supposed to have a motion, and then we talk about it, so.
I'll make a motion that we discuss the proposition here, without any, action taken.
I'll
Well,
second it for discussion only.
For discussion, okay, well,
Discussion only.
okay, and I need a second.
I second it.
Oh, you seconded it?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're open for discussion.
Well,
Do you want to go first?
I mean, I just had a couple of questions on it. One is, I always ask, what's our return on investment? So, you said that they run anywhere from 90,000 to 300,000. So, I guess no other firms were interviewed or actually considered for this project?
Correct. Sorry, go ahead. So if we say, hey, or in the process, if we're like, and I'm gonna use the water storage tank as an example. We interviewed one company based off of the Professional Services Procurement Act, because by law, you can't competitively bid it. So that's kind of where the procurement side is very unique when it comes to engineering and professional services. So if we feel that their bid or our negotiations were just not good or not in good faith, or again, the qualifications, are they qualified and is the price reasonable? We can end negotiations and then open them up back with somebody else. So that's ultimately what we did on this one. Is we spoke with them, we kind of interviewed each other and said, well, hey, put a proposal forward and let's talk about it. We went through it, kind of looked at it and said, okay, they are qualified based off of our research. We called around other cities as far as, who's done what, and as far as comprehensive plans and costs and everything else, kind of found the range of cost, and then said, okay, is this reasonable based off of that cost? And so that was our assessment.
And
So basically, we haven't taken any competitive bids on this.
Correct, based off the engineering services we've done.
And let's say we decide we're gonna spend $150,000. Where's that money coming from?
So, couple options. One, because of the planning component of it, we're behind on infrastructure, we're behind on water services planning, we're behind on stormwater, and we're really kind of building the baseline for all of this. We reached out to the COG for confirmation too in their planning department to say, can we use ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan funds for this? We can use the first or any portion of the American Rescue Plan funds for this. If not, we could which we're confident that we can. We've got verification on that, so we can submit for it. If that wasn't the case and we didn't get the verification, I was gonna recommend we use cash for it, simply because the ROI is putting a plan together. Because right now, if we say we wanna fix that road, or we wanna put a business here or put a business here, we're really kind of just arbitrarily just throwing it out there saying, we think that this is a great idea, but we really don't have the teeth or the grit or the data, the demographics, the understanding. The last one we have is 1994. So the ROI is really putting the plan together to help not us, but help council, help the community, and help staff say, okay, now we kind of have a direction that we can potentially go to, because it has to be adopted by council at the end.
Have they created master plans before?
Correct.
And executed?
And I'll let Kelly answer that one. Have y'all created master plans before?
Yes, hundreds.
So they're a global engineering firm.
So, you made the statement that typically they're done every 5 years, they're updated every 5 years.
Correct.
What would be the benefit of doing one every 5 years?
It all depends on growth. So if, a city that's built out or nearly built out, or, is really kind of on the flat curve of sales tax, of, permits, and you're kind of seeing the trend of, your rolling 12 just being, we'll call it flat or trending down, you've kind of stabled out and you're kind of hitting build out. We're kind of in that unique situation where we don't know. We don't know if, I mean, we know we're growing. We know that's not changing. We have undeveloped land, we have opportunity, there's potential. And it could go a few different directions. This plan kind of helps put the experts in the urban planning side, the demographics, to say, okay, where are we truly at in this plan and what is it gonna look like? And then what's the identity of Morgan's Point? What could it be? What could it, turn out to be?
So when we apply for like grants and stuff, don't they require that master plan?
Correct. So
To
grants.
be qualified?
Correct. So most grants that come out, or most grants that you apply for, federal, state, local, require some sort of master plan within 5 years being updated, whether that's a parks plan.
But you can put down you have a master plan, because we do. Just like the parks over there, they did not require we had an updated 5-year master plan.
Correct. And the parks plan is 2016, so when they did the park, it was actually within the 5 years of the 2016. For the master plan, you'll submit it and they'll just make the determination if that's viable or not.
I just had a couple, did you finish? I don't want to interrupt you. I just had a couple of comments. First of all, thank you once again for bringing this to the table. We desperately need a master plan. I was around, Larry, I'm sure you were around for the original one. My husband Larry served on the volunteer committee, and it was very time consuming. Everybody worked full time, and we need a professional to come in and do it. My only concern, and I'm kind of a stickler on contracts, I wasn't quite clear on some of the language, because I see a lot of stuff that says, it doesn't cover, application fees, mileage, couriers, express delivery, overnight mail, facsimiles, things to me that would be ordinary things that you'd need to do in a plan. I noticed on their travel expenses, it's cost plus 20%, subcontracting cost plus 20%. This may be totally customary, but just for my peace of mind, I would like to see another bid that I know you've done a lot of work on, you are very much appreciated, as our staff is, and Colliers for getting this together for us. When we're making decisions on behalf of the citizens, I'm uncomfortable making a decision unless I've got some other stuff I can kind of lay my hands on, and I did do a lot of research on it. Also, and we never have to take the lowest bidder, and we don't have to take any bidder, but I also know that Central Texas Council of Governments wrote the master plan for Cameron and for Nolanville, and have wrote parts of master plans. We may or may not want to go that route, but it would sure be worth looking at. So I just think that maybe, and this is a great start, and this is where we may end up, and I certainly support having a master plan done. And I did check into that American, and you're exactly, the rescue fund, and yes, we can use that money for it. So we have that money available, but also when we're spending 150, but I'm thinking 150 plus, I'm just kind of looking at this other one. Is it gonna stop at 150? I'm not real clear. I'm not an attorney to read the legalese of it, but I just want to get my hands on something, apples to apples, where I can say, I'm so comfortable with doing this.
And so I'll have to dive into this, and I can talk with Neil after, or in the coming weeks. So if we end negotiations with them, and council says, you know what, we'd rather go out for RFP, unless they put in an RFP with it, they're pretty much off the table, at least by law, because we've ended the negotiation. And I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there. And so with the RFP that comes back, again, we don't have to go with the lowest bidder. We can wait it. But that being said, we don't know, it could come back at $250,000 because it's technically a brand new master plan, not an update, because it's 1994. So it could come back, not saying that it is, but that is a risk that we do have to take.
Yeah, but I think
Okay.
that's just, I mean, I don't want to be,
Okay.
to be honest with you, I don't want to be pushed when I'm spending this kind of money of the residents' money, and we're making this decision.
Absolutely.
You're coming with this and you do.
Yeah.
You've researched it and you've done a beautiful job, but I've got to do my homework too. And the only way I can do my homework is to say, are these things reasonable, to check things out. So I just have more homework I need to do on my part. You've done a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm very much for doing a master plan, and we do have the funds available if that's the way we want to spend our American Rescue Fund. That's another
Donna,
thing.
let me ask you a question. What are you recommending, or what do you say?
I
I know what
would-
you're saying, or do you want Alton to go out and get bids? Is that what you're?
I would recommend that we talk to some other people, including Central Texas Council of Governments, and see you know, since we know they have done COGS, sorry, master plans, and we know they've done locally. That may not be the route we want to go. We may want to say, no, we want to bring in an engineering firm. I don't know who was all in their planning department, but I just think we need to do a little more exploration. We've waited all these years, you know, so I don't think waiting another month or so, I don't know how long you think that would take. And the other little just thing in the back of my head is, and this, I know this is down the line, but when we get the census, or even before we get the census, we pretty much know we've gone over 5,000. So we may be looking at a rule if that's what the residents choose to do. All that needs to be incorporated in our master plan. So then I kind of wonder too, should we kind of focus on, if that's what the residents want to do, focus on that and then do the master plan so we can incorporate all that in our charter? And I know it could be added to, but added to at what expense?
No, and that is valid, and I would argue that in that kind of statement, there's a lot of things that we're having to do simultaneously. You know, we really don't have the luxury. I mean, we do. We can say, hey, we want to break it up and say, you know, we want to take it off for, 2 years. Not my recommendation. Again, that's council's. Just because there's some things that I think we can do simultaneously to kind of help.
I have
make
no
sure that
problem
we-
with doing it
I think-
simultaneously.
But yeah. So no, I don't disagree. So I think that if at council's recommendation, then I'm thinking that, and I'll get with Neil on the legalese side of it, but I'm thinking that we look at doing an RFP and actually doing a formal RFP, which would then come out, and then we could present those potential findings from there.
Dalton, would it be, I know tonight we have a representative from Collier tonight, but I would like to hear from the firm and have them give somewhat of a synopsis and a presentation of what all this stuff says.
Okay.
And again, I appreciate you coming here. I'd actually like to really have him talk to us and tell us what all this
No,
is.
that's what he's here for.
Pretty much what we're gonna get for $150,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would open that up if these, tonight, if we have time, or if we wanna. I understand, that's why I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you're here, you've made a trip here.
First, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, council people, citizens, thank y'all for having us. My name is Kelly Locke, I am with Colliers Engineering and Design, and I will say first and foremost, I am not an engineer, so don't hold me to the engineering specifics of it. I help the liaison side and the communication to do the outreach to the city and the municipality. And to address Ms. Linda's concern, I am Texas born and raised, fifth generation Aggie. So you are getting a Texas presence with Colliers. Brief explanation what Colliers is, who we are. Colliers, I don't know if this is working, I know I talk about it anyway, it's kind of deflecting. Colliers started out Mazer Consulting, an engineering firm out of Northeast, 38 years ago by Richard Mazer. I know him personally. We merged with Colliers International last February. Colliers International is the largest real estate brokerage firm in the world. We took over their engineering and design leg. We do all engineering for Costco, Chick-fil-A, Hyatt. Those are a few of the high flyers, along with, I want to say 37 municipalities on the East Coast. We do all the drone work for FEMA on the East Coast. We do a lot of insurance work for Ernst & Young nationally. And we do have a global presence in South America and elsewhere.
You can keep it.
Yeah. We do have a strong Texas focus. We've been in Texas about 5 years now as we're expanding our footprint nationally. We have an office in Houston with survey and engineering and environmental. We have an office in Bryan where I am based out of, survey engineering and myself. And we have an office in Dallas with survey, Sioux Services, hydrologist, and right-of-way and traffic, who's based out of Dallas. Balloon's back, I'm just gonna hold it. Regarding someone's question of the master plans, the firm started out as a municipal development firm, and we have branched into other areas over the past 10, 12 years, especially in the last decade. We've really expanded our footprint, getting into architecture, MEP, and HVAC, and things of that nature. But we truly started out as a municipal development firm. And that's how the owner, Richard Mazer, came about and kind of made his footprint. We've done hundreds of master plans. One thing I'd like to address, and I'm sorry I can't Ms. Hartman?
Yes.
One thing, the travel verbiage, and I don't actually have a proposal in front of me, but I've done quite a few of them. The travel verbiage is very East Coast oriented and very legal, where courier services are used regularly, extensive travel at council is used, and many times in the Northeast, they require subject matter expert or engineers, whomever is stamping proposals, to attend council, to represent what is being proposed on any engineering projects. That is not a Texas requirement. That is something that we could remove. Now, if the city does, for some reason, and I can't think of a reason why it would be a necessity in Morgan's Point Resort to say we require that the engineer of record come to the municipality, then that's where the travel expense comes in. The proposal is written as a holistic package. Another thing to keep in mind of that, I think that the council is kind of looking at it as a grand price tag, and it's not. And a couple of times tonight, the term living document has come up, and this kind of addresses two forms to this proposal in pricing and in a living document. You have to adjust the mindset that with this proposal, it's not going to be, oh, we signed it and now we get a bill. That's not how it works. What will occur as things phase out in the back, as we start doing background information, we will get with the city manager or whomever the city manager appoints as our direct point of contact. We will start doing background work, and we will send bi-monthly or monthly invoicing on hours spent towards task. At any point, the city can say, hey, Kings X, stop. We don't want you to spend any more money on background. We've got enough demographic information, because honestly, the first thing we have to do is pull demographic information, pull traffic studies, et cetera, to see where we are, to see where we need to go, okay? So as we're doing that work and invoices start coming in, and it's however y'all want to do it, we can invoice weekly, which is overkill in my opinion. Bi-monthly or monthly is very standard on municipal level. And you see invoices coming in, you say, hey, we've spent enough here. You make a call and say, we're good. We've got enough statistical data here. Let's move on to the next phase. And then we begin going from there. So it's essentially a progression billing cycle. Do you see what I'm saying? The estimate we put out in front of you, the way that with the proposal is done, we like to do as a holistic package so you have a real idea of what it's probably going to spend if you go full tilt through the entire package, through the entire proposal. One thing you do need to keep in mind, though, as has been stated, most municipalities do master plans on a 5-year cycle. And that is the reason that the master plans work really well, and they get you, the term target, the term plan has been used a lot. And you've got to have the target, you've got to have the plan. And once you start progressing for that, you might shift right or left, but you're still going in the general direction. The proposal is to keep us going in that direction. And what happens to us regularly is we get halfway through a master plan proposal like this, the plan shifts a little bit, that one's scratched, we start again. It's kind of a living document to keep us on track going down the road to a greater plan. It's not the end all be all. No one can write you a master plan proposal that you're actually going to see the whole thing come to fruition. And I'd be very surprised if you see this, it's not going to come to fruition. And I'd actually be very surprised if you see the entire price tag get met. Now, I'm not saying that this one's going to be superseded by version 2 or version 3 or version 4, because the city says, okay, well, we were looking at, this is just an example, we wanted to put a convention center in. Or we wanted to put a strip center in to generate economic development through small business. Well, wait a minute, we've got an opportunity now to put a convention center in. We want to shift our focus away from strip center into convention center. Well, then the plan, you're still on the path, you're still on the plan, but your target shifted a little bit. And that's what this is for, is to get us on the path, to get us the background, the history, the data we need, the conversations with the stakeholders in the city, the conversations with the council, the conversations with, all principal business owners, citizens, everyone, find out where we want to go, start down that path, and then as we're going down the path, kind of hone in and shift and try to hit the targets as we want to do. The other thing is we are a full bandwidth firm. We can handle all aspects of any engineering consulting that you might need. That will be done remotely. I'm not going, and what I mean by that is I'm not going to bring engineers and drop them in Morgan's Point Resort. Now, with that said, if we are talking about a very specific item such as wastewater, and we want to have a conversation about what we're going to do with your wastewater and how we're going to handle that, then I'm going to use that big monitor right there, and I'm going to have my subject matter expert on wastewater be live via Teams or Zoom or something of that nature to attend the council meeting with you to speak specifically on that task. Same thing with traffic, same thing with freshwater, same thing with community interaction, if you want to change your logo, anything of that nature, that's where we will bring in that expert to speak directly to that task.
But now that wouldn't be part of the master plan, that would be additional if we had y'all do.
That's all inclusive in the master.
Engineering?
Yes, ma'am.
Engineering
no,
is it?
No, not
Okay.
engineering.
That's-
But in a lot of your engineering services, you're probably gonna wanna send out for some form of RFQ.
So
Yes.
basically what I'm saying is this is kind of an à la carte thing, is, so where I come from on this is, do we get to have a not to exceed number?
Yes, you're looking at it.
Okay, and then what's your percentage of retainer?
I don't think we put retainer on there.
You got it in section 5.0.
Okay. I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry.
I mean, there's no number on it, it just says that, you reserve the right to request retainer.
Right, I don't think we put a retainer amount on you. No.
But you're saying the 150, it would not exceed 150.
No, you're not gonna exceed the 150, you're not gonna write a check for 150. It's gonna be incremental over 3 to 5 years, 2 to 3 years, and that's what I'm saying. I think by the time we get, and I don't wanna put a dollar figure on it, I think by the time we get down the road to where we're really writing the master plan, we're gonna be in phase 2, phase 3, and targets are gonna adjust and shift. It's like Mr., I'm sorry, I can't read your. Linhart. I didn't bring my glasses in. Like Mr. Linhart said, it's kind of an à la carte thing. We just don't want to shock you with anything. If y'all say this is it, and we want to execute this as rapidly as possible, that would be your top tier dollar amount. But it's still going to be piecemealed out over, we couldn't do this work in, the volume of work in producing this product is going to be a year. So it's gonna be incrementally built out there, and that's where you can step in and say, the city's had catastrophic failure, we need to stop right now. Or the city wants to expedient this as much as possible, how quick can we get to the next phase? This is going fantastic, we've got more economic development coming on board, or we've got the American Rescue Funds coming in. We do also have a grant department, which I know at the corporate often y'all do have someone handling your grants in-house. We do have a grant writer on staff that we do professional grant writing to assist in municipalities like this. And this speaks perfectly, this worked, perfect example, on your travel expenses. If y'all called us and said you would like our grant writer to come down and train your grant person for 3 days, the fees are set. That's what you're gonna pay to travel our person down to train your grant writer for however many days. You or our grant agency to get them up to the speed. And on our grants, we don't charge unless the grants are awarded. So it's something we have done for multiple municipalities is to assist them in that grant acquisition.
Kelly, when you do this, does it typically say it's $150,000 in 5 years, does that number typically go down?
Depends on the degree in which you're looking. And what I mean by that is y'all are starting very, very scratch. In 5 years, if we've got good data, and we've got a good path, and yes, it's gonna go down tremendously. In 5 years, if the city says we wanna do a complete 180, or we have the opportunity to bring in a convention center, and we wanna go from strip center, or we wanna change massive highway plans, and we wanna do a big highway study, it can go up. And again, I try very hard in situations not like this, not to peg to a specific dollar amount by any means, because I always get called back on it. Traditionally, in my opinion, you will see them go down. And traditionally, in my opinion, the longer you build a relationship, the more they go down, and it just kind of rolls into the development package of different phases of growth. You see what I'm saying? And whereas right now, y'all have to start somewhere. That's kind of where you are, and that's an expense of this. You have to get going. You have to start. You've got to set a goal, set a target, and that is an expense of this. You've got to get some data. You've got to reach out to your people. You know, we added a community outreach. That's very important. You've got to get the citizens on board, and not just on board, but you've got to get the citizens blessing, understanding what the city wants. You know, what the citizens want. It can't just be a Dalton Rice or a Mr. Green. It's got to be what the citizens want for their town. Once a firm such as us have started a process like this, and progress is being made, and you're seeing capital improvements in 5 years, it might be simply, we have one council meeting, people put ideas in, we rewrite it, and okay, well, we've got a new path. It's much easier. It's easier, quicker, cheaper, and that's gonna be less expensive. So, yes, to answer your question, generally, it does go down unless you take a massive redirect in the plan, which honestly I think would hit before the 5-year mark. And that's something I think could occur with Morgan's point right now, is as y'all get in the process of seeing improvements and seeing, okay, well, this is what we're gonna do, and everyone know, and the good thing about this is it opens transparency to everyone in the city. Everybody knows this is our steps. Everybody wants better roads. Everybody knows that. Everybody wants better roads everywhere you go. You need to do 4 or 5 things before that. If you're gonna improve the wastewater or the fresh water, why put in new roads to cut them up? You know, let's put that on the plan and let everybody in the city know, hey, roads are number 3 on the plan. We're gonna do freshwater, wastewater, then we're gonna improve the roads. All of a sudden, everybody goes, okay, that's great. We'll have new roads in 3 years. Let's get the water done first. And that's kind of what occurs. That's how it occurs, and you just kind of go from there. Good question. Anybody else?
Anybody else have a question or comment?
I just had a question to Dalton. The American Relief Fund, are we tied into a time frame with expenditures? And do we have somebody that's managing our I know there's paperwork involved with it, not as much as the last one, Mark, that was very arduous, but, I mean, do we have someone that is managing this for us, turning in paperwork, and do we have a time frame on
we are in
expenditures?
contact with the COG on it, so they've the last thing I had read, this was a couple weeks ago, they pushed back kind of the reporting date on it because they know people are trying to figure out what their funding is. We actually just got the email, I think, today on the portal access and the reporting requirements. So we're in contact with the COG to help us through any reporting, but the portal seems like it's user-friendly compared to the arduous CARES process before. So
Yeah.
there's still some information that we don't know. I think there's still a lot of information the federal government doesn't know.
Okay. Yeah, because we need to get on that, make sure we've got someone that's managing that for us, or, because there's definite paperwork we've got to turn in and timeframes to meet and everything. I think you've answered a lot of questions, and just back for me, and you sound like you guys can do it all for us. I still, when you talk about the residents, I'm very mindful of how I spend the citizens' money, because this is their money.
100%.
And when I'm comfortable with it, I'll defend it to the ground. You know, I have no problem with talking to anyone about anything. It's just, I just don't feel, I feel like we need to maybe do a couple more steps till I feel a little more satisfied. That I can go to the citizens and say to them, I'm so confident this is the way we need to go. I do support a master plan. I think I just need to have a little more information. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate you taking the time to explain everything to us, and, you know, I'm kind of the same way as, you know, we're spending citizens' money, so we have to do our due diligence in that. And your rate schedule might be perfectly in line with everybody else, but as of tonight, we don't know that.
We don't have a clue.
And so, you know, I would like to see some competitive numbers here, of a rate schedule and what the proposal is. Not to say y'all wouldn't be a great partner, not saying that at all. Just saying that, you know, like Donna said, we have to go to the citizens and look them eye to eye and say, hey, we made the best choice.
We made the best choice for you. And it's not about who comes back with the best price-wise either.
Also-
That's not necessarily a consideration.
Also, I think the difference between doing a COG thing and doing city?
We can, definitely. We have multiple individuals and groups that we work with. We actually do municipal funding, construction funding, grant writing, or not grant, bonds, through Ernst & Young. There is an avenue there, and our corporate partners. There's definitely a strategic advantage there. You know, say for example, y'all want a hotel, which I was gonna stay here tonight, and then I realized I can't stay in Morgan's Point. I've gotta drive 25, 30 minutes, well, I'll just go home. When you say someday, and this is kind of a prime example on how a master plan proposal can change, we're not really talking about a hotel on this one. Well, in 2 or 3 years, y'all might say, we want to plant a hotel right there on the piece of land adjacent to this building. Okay, we can do that. That's kind of a new scope. We're gonna have to rearrange. We've got to handle, freshwater, wastewater, et cetera, and then we start reaching out to one of the flagged hotels that we deal with directly. Hyatt is our big brand. We do everything for Hyatt. And we would bring in a Hyatt rep, introduce them to Morgan's Point, bring them to council, show them around. There's a big advantage to that restaurant chains, we can open doors to people. And that's kind of how we met. We're doing a lot in Moffett right now, a couple of developments, Elm Grove. We're doing a lot with the locals here that are floating around the state doing multiple large scale developments. And we like them, and we ran into Dalton and Kerry at TML and started having a conversation and developed to here.
Okay, I think we need to go ahead and proceed, so.
Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you for coming out for us.
Okay, we've accepted the motion, we've discussed it, so what do y'all wanna do, y'all?
Can you table it?
Sure.
Is that what y'all wanna do?
Table is what we do. I'd like to see, like I said, some different rates.
Cause I agree with Donna. I'd like to see more, competitive bidding there, so we'll know the base to start at, that we know what we've got. That we can justify.
How do you do that?
I'm gonna have to do some research on it.
No, and what I'm gonna say is, how do you do that?
So I've contacted, so I've contacted cities, and I got the rates just, from talking to other cities. Most new master plans right out of the gates are $250,000 to $300,000, bottom line out of the gate. Again, that can change and vary. You can throw a dart at it, so the range that I threw out was calling around to other cities. So what we'll do is I'll get some more data points. Because I think the bidding or the price point is kind of what we're trying to determine, I'll probably do some research and look at, can we do just a formal RFP, a request for proposal, what that legally would look like. So I'll just.
And also, what services do we actually need this for? I mean, we're a small town, and I don't know that hotel chains say, restaurants, you have to have a certain population or whatever. So I mean, just things to think about too. What are our needs? What do we actually need?
Well, that's not for us, but what are things show that we can decide?
Yeah,
I
but
mean, we
they're
can't
gonna
stay
get,
at hotels, we
they're
don't
getting
have
input from the
decision
residents
for it.
as to what
No
they
matter if
want.
we wanted it or not, you
Right.
know?
Well, they're gonna get input from the residents as to what they
If
would
y'all
want,
think
not.
that what Dalton to do, get another bid on it, then that's.
Well, and I'd like him to reach out to the COG, see what services they have to offer. I know they've done master plans before in cities our size or larger. And let's just take a look at it. And at least we'll have more information than what we do now,
I'll put it for y'all, y'all wanna, is that what y'all wanna do, table? Everybody here a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
You opposed? Okay.
Who made the motion? We didn't make a motion.
You made the motion to accept it. And we took a discussion, and you could table it, so we're not going anywhere with it after that. Right?
Do
Is
we
that
need a
right,
motion to
Neil?
table it, Neil?
Yeah, I asked if we could table it.
But we didn't make a motion.
Wait a minute, if you don't do anything on it, it's gonna lay on the table.
Right, okay. So we can just,
Or you can make a motion to
Yeah,
table.
if you don't say anything, if it never goes to vote, it just dies where it's at, and then we can go from there. So.
Okay, next one, let's go into, ordinance 2021-08, amendment for zoning chapter, section 14, and a fee schedule of 15, so,
So this
Lawson,
is,
you wanna take that one too?
yeah, so this has been, in front of council quite a few times, different proposals. The only thing that is not on here, and that was my mistake not putting it on there, but again, y'all may not want to, is adding the inspection fee of the $250 for, for the short-term rentals. So if council agrees with the Exhibit A and the ordinance as it stands, and they want to do the inspection, it would just have to make a motion with an amendment to add the 250. If not, it can be as is, and we just don't do the inspection.
Okay, can I ask, what are you calling a lot line adjustment?
So
Are you
lot
talking
line,
about where they just remove the line from their property?
correct. And so in the lot line adjustments, like, and I'm gonna use our lot line as an example, they're paying for it. So a survey for a lot line is about $2,700, give or take. And again, it's just this fee right here, not diving completely into the details as far as each specific one. We took we actually had the COG do the research on this in their planning department. They pulled like cities that we presented. We also put Belton, and this is kind of what they came up with based on similar cities that council has seen in previous meetings, and then Belton also. So any amendments that y'all want to make, we can.
That's the only one that I basically have a problem with. I'm sure the other rates are, but on lot line adjustment, the ones that I did when I worked up there, the citizens do the survey, the citizens bring the Mylar things. We basically sign it. All they're doing is removing the line from if they buy 2 properties. To me, we want to encourage people to buy the lot next to them and 3 lots down, and I think 500 is a hardship for us. I mean, I'm big on fees, don't get me wrong, because the city does a lot of work. But in this case, this is one of the things the city doesn't have to do much at all. So I really want to encourage people to buy more properties and to replat their properties. It makes it cleaner, it makes it better for us. I think if maybe we could do 250, does that work for you?
And I don't disagree with that. I think I would say out of all of them, that would probably be one I wouldn't even budge on. I know we had talked about that before, and I'll be honest, I had completely forgot about that.
Yeah, we had
so-
talked about
What
it.
do you wanna break that at, Donna? What would you suggest?
250?
250
Mm-hmm.
on that line?
Yeah.
And what about, while we're at it, do you wanna go ahead and do the inspection, add that to it since it's not included?
Sure, is that for the,
For the short-term rental, basically the annual short-term
okay, we
rental.
can add that on the end.
Okay, add the 250 for the
Okay.
inspection.
And then just one other question, the variance on commercial and residential, is that a variance that's just approved by the inspector, or is that a variance that has to go to P and Z and council?
So there's some, I'm gonna just say ambiguity, because again, we kind of take in the general fees that we're seeing across the board. Wait, let me back up. There is one on here, I believe, stand by, I'm sorry, where it was, so with P and Z council review, so there was the P and Z council review on it. And so I think those are,
Fourth one, the fifth one down?
yeah, the 5th one down. So there's 2 of them. If it's a variance through, I think, the city manager's office, I don't think it is. But again, I think we can clarify what that is.
Yeah, I think we need to clarify it, because
Okay.
if it's a simple variance where someone's over 6 inches on a lot line, and our inspector said, sure, of course, we can do that, no problem, doesn't have to go to P and Z, it's not really taking any extra time, and these are pretty steep.
Well, and so with
For
the
a variance.
variances aren't done by the inspector. Well, here, let me back up. They're done by,
With the-
so they would come back and they would
Right,
come to the
and
city
get
manager,
approval.
who's kind of
Right.
the building inspector
Right.
piece. So,
But he's the initial, the
correct.
inspector's the initial one.
So I think on that, if the variance, we can kind of do some research on that and put some clarity in that, again, at council's discretion. So again, this isn't a perfect system. What this does is, this is also kind of the living, breathing document. We understand that some of this, we may come back to council and say, look, I think we should amend this because of X, Y, and Z, or, hey, we need some clarity on this, and we'll absolutely bring that. We know that this is new, and we're trying to just kind of get a baseline. So I fully expect us to, revisit maybe some of these in the coming months.
How much, just
Okay,
roughly
I'm
on
gonna
the
need a motion to,
residential variance, how much time would that take a city employee to process that?
It depends. It depends on the scope. I mean, if we turn around and council's like, well, we want to do variances for all the green space, you're looking at probably thousands of hours trying to figure it out, plus legal, plus everything else.
But,
Well, and I'm just using that,
we're just saying that's why it needs to be qualified. If it's a simple variance that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
inspectors,
No,
they put
I
it on
agree.
there and
We
goes to
cover our
you,
costs.
yeah.
I agree with that. So yeah, so
We
it's
wanna
really
cover
just,
our
it's
costs,
covering
but
just
not-
the administrative stuff, so, you know.
But you're also, again, if this is not the set in stone thing, why was it coming to us?
No, this is the set in stone one.
This
It
set-
is.
So,
This is
so
setting
this
the
is
fee
This
schedule.
is setting the fee schedule.
So,
Yeah, so this is setting the fee schedule, but just like any ordinance, if council's like, hey, I wanna make an amendment to, you know, to lot line adjustment for 250, and council says, you know, agree, second, aye, then it stands. And then at the end, if council says, hey, we adopt it with the set amendments in there, then it stands as.
Would you
as
be
is.
comfortable with the range and using the judgment of the time that it takes the city to do it?
Again, this is kind of council's, I know we didn't really talk about it much before, so this is kind of the council's
So
stuff.
what would you suggest the range be?
I honestly don't have a good recommendation. If there's something on that, like, you know, for example, on those, you're like, hey, maybe we could do a little bit more, we can just say, hey, let's scratch those out until we figure it out, and we can bring it back at a later time.
I'm
Now,
just-
I'm not saying the entire document, I'm just saying,
Just
it's
those?
just,
If you do a variance on staff level, why even really charge for it?
That's what-
and that I agree with. So there was not clarity on this, of course, you know, again,
Yeah.
we're pulling the fee schedules
That's why I
from
asked for
others.
clarity, because 500 and
And so I
250
think the
for what, a
clarity would be
signature?
if it's a staff variance where we can do, when I can do it in my office and sign it, really, it's kind of a moot point. Or we just cut it in half and say that's it across the board, whether it has to come to council or not. Or we just say this is for coming to council for the variance, you know,
I
alone.
would just make it a variance that goes before P and Z and council.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
we
would
could just
too.
say with P and Z council
Because
review.
a signature is routine business
good with
that a
that.
city manager or someone does to sign off on a, you know.
And so we could pretty much, I mean, if council's good with it, we can scratch out variance, commercial, residential.
And then, do we want to take out that lot line adjustment? That's pretty simple too. You pretty much
you're
just
paying
sign
for
off
that
on
with
that. They
red
take
flag.
it to the county,
Yeah.
they do Mylar plats, and we want to encourage that. So I would say we strike that too.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna scratch, commercial and residential variance and lot line adjustment, is that correct?
Right.
And I would kind of say, since we're kind of at it, and again, I've looked at this before, looked at it again. The vacation plat one, really, we're tying that into specific use as short-term rentals. It's not, you know, a vacation plat is kind of
Same thing?
same thing. So I mean, and again, I think this is one of those things where if all of a sudden it comes back and they're like, I'm doing a vacation plat.
Right.
Well, it's just short, it's a specific use permit, so you're still paying $500.
Now, let me
Same-
ask,
same thing.
let me ask you something on that specific use. They pay $500 to apply for the permit, then they're gonna pay an additional $250 for the P and Z review?
Well, what does council want to do? So, well, actually, here, let me back up. No. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say that that initial fee covers all that administrative cost to go before council, to do the 200, 200-foot notifications. I'm gonna say that that is all in. The P and Z specific review would be somebody who wasn't happy with the decision based off of our ordinance that says, I wanna go to P and Z. Okay, you can go to P and Z, but here's
Right.
you have to pay $250.
Okay.
In order for us to prepare everything to get ready for P and Z.
Let's qualify then that specific use at 500 being administrative fees, including P and Z and council,
Got it.
right?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
because and with the short-term rental piece, that would tie into that, that covers their first year, that covers the first inspection, plus all the administrative,
Okay. So,
responsibilities.
did you get that, Ophelia, so that we can qualify that?
Yeah, so that's, we could do that, and then, so agreed on taking vacation plat out?
Yes.
So on the variances, I'm still going back to that, whether it's commercial or residential. Can we not put a base fee in there and then with an asterisk it and say, you know, let's just say a base fee of $50, right? And then if it goes before P and Z council, it's $250 or whatever it is.
I'm comfortable with that. I would almost say, my recommendation would be at this point, let's scratch it out, and then as this kind of evolves in this briefing document, if we say, you know what, we're starting to see it, we can come back and.
Well, and if they get a variance, and it's a simple one that you sign off on, like I said,
It's a-
6
and
inches,
that's-
whatever.
and that's exactly-
Nothing.
it's a moot.
But if they have to go to P and Z, we've already got that built in,
And
it's
really,
$250.
and really what we could do, and so this is, I'm kind of just winging it on this one. You could almost do a simple administrative variance, just like another permit, even though they're doing most of the work. Simply the fact that their staff time that ultimately comes in, you could say $40, base. I mean, So again, that's council discretion. Again, that's just, I'm using existing permit stuff already. Whatever council wants to do on that one. Again,
I think let's let it lie, I would say let it go right now, and let's work on it as it progresses.
If you find it's taking up time or whatever, then just
And
say, you know
again,
what, we
If
really
there's a
need.
bunch of them, you may want to do, you have one every 3 months. Come on,
the
you know.
most important
Right.
part of this
Exactly.
is, the most
Exactly.
important part of this is just starting a baseline. It's figuring out where we are. It's,
See where
again,
we're at on it.
living, breathing document is the buzzword of the night. So just to clarify, lot line adjustment gone. All the council agrees on that?
Yeah.
Vacation plat gone.
Yep,
Variance, commercial, residential, the last two gone.
right.
And does council want to add the inspections, for short-term
Inspection
rentals?
250.
Yep. But that was kind of built in with your stuff
It
over
was,
there,
so
but
the,
we're
ini- so the,
putting it in the
ini- so,
fee. Yes,
so the initial application fee for short-term rentals, 500, that covers the inspection. Calendar year later, then when they get re-inspected for basically their CO again, again, life safety kind of inspection, making sure that, hey, all the businesses, just like any other business, doing the right thing. $250 for staff time, fuel, gas, getting out there, whatever.
So this
Um,
is annual.
okay.
There's nothing standard in short-term rentals
no,
right
this is
now. Oh, annual, yes, yes, sir, sorry,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, does
I think
everybody
those
agree
are all
that,
the
Joey?
changes.
And
What
so,
we're talking about?
just to clarify, sorry, Mayor, yes on the inspection, 250.
Yes.
We got that?
Okay.
You right? While we're at it,
We-
what we're scratching, everybody understand? Okay.
Right.
And I'm gonna call it,
And so this
Okay.
motion would be a motion with amendments
to
of
accept
discussion.
Exhibit A.
Okay, I'm going to move that we adopt ordinance 2021-08, setting the fee schedule for Chapter 14 in the zoning with the changes that Dalton has just outlined for us.
And council agreed to.
And, yeah, and council,
I'll need a second.
council suggested.
Correct.
I'll need a second on that. Robbie seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 5, resolution 2021.25, the Centurion Agreement. You go ahead.
Todd, you're in the hot seat now.
Joey?
Yeah, the crowd is thinning.
Todd is in the hot seat on this one. This is only a 30-minute presentation, so it should go.
Oh, it's gonna be less.
30 seconds, I think he was saying, yeah.
So, gonna give you a little brief presentation into the RMS program. So, RMS program is what we write our reports on, keep track of evidence, send stuff over to the county attorney. For the past 8 years, we've been on a platform called WebRMS. That's what's called WebRMS. And the county's been paying for that. When everybody migrated about 8 years ago, some departments decided to choose to go their own path because they weren't happy with the system that the county was going to. So cities like Belton, Harker Heights, Think Clean went their own way, and then the smaller departments in county went to this along with Temple, but Temple managed their own side. This past year, the Bell County Police Chiefs Association decided that it was about time to start looking to branch our way back together underneath the same system. It's easier for the courts, the police departments, file sharing, getting a good database of offenders instead of not knowing what's going on with other departments because we can't see the work. So Temple decided to head this one up. They found a system. They had multiple programs come in, do some bids, and they chose this one. At first, the agreement was that the county was going to continue to pay for the smaller departments, and then that was no longer going to happen. So once we found out about that, myself, Shruti, and Chief went in and started to price some. And the lowest we could come to would be still not as cheap as what we can get through the Temple contract by partnering with them. So we recommended to Dawson that we go ahead and go with the other departments and sign the contract with Temple to run their RMS program.
Okay. Now, my understanding, Was this what we budgeted for at budget?
Correct.
So
we-
it's already in our budget?
So we anticipated this coming
Yeah.
prior to the
Okay.
budget year. We just didn't know what this was gonna look like. We knew the county was gonna go in a different direction. He's saying City of Temple, it's kind of it's really an ILA.
Yeah.
With it, but it's a coalition of all the other departments in the city for the record management system. I'm big on, where are we gonna make the best bang for our buck? What they came back with, and I don't know the price off the top of my head, but it was substantially higher to try to go as an individual.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
But do we have enough funds that we budgeted?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For
No,
this year?
it is
Yeah.
100%, the initial
Okay.
cost and everything is 100% covered, and then the annual one will.
Because I know we had a brief discussion with it about budget time. I knew,
Yes.
and it was
Yeah.
very supported by us.
So we looked at 5 or
Putting
6
funds
different
out.
programs, and the one that got close to this one is based out of Texas. It's called CopSync, but still, the initial payment would have been cheaper, but keeping it going year after year would have cost more to go by ourselves. So,
Well, thank you
Thanks,
for all the
thanks, I
work that you
appreciate
did
that.
on it.
no
And
problem.
I'm gonna need a motion now on this right here.
I move we adopt resolution 2021-25.
Second?
A second.
Larry, second. Any further discussion on it? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 6, resolution 2021-26, reappointment of the 3 EDC members that Mr. Evans talked about earlier.
I'd like to move that we adopt resolution 2021-26 with Tom Edwards' recommendations, and mine too, because they're great board members. I attend all the EDC meetings, with Debbie Bates, Mike Fletcher, and Jeff Davison.
I'll second.
Bruce accepted. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? We'll double your salary. So, what, 2 times nothing is nothing? Okay, thank y'all for doing what you do. Thank you, all y'all. Okay, next one's on the consent agenda on the minutes for November. Everybody let those are listed on
I got with the city secretary, and I reviewed them. We found a few changes on them, and with the changes that were on there were some clarifications, and we wanted to make sure that City Attorney Potts was quoted right, that it is clear about not prohibiting the short-term rentals. But with the changes that were made, and that's been taken care of, I move that they're adopted as corrected.
I'll second it.
Sean second. All in favor? I assume there was no discussion. No, any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, next item. Kind of a fun deal here. This is something we're kind of fishing on right here. So Dalton, you want to talk about the home rule?
Yeah, real quick, Jesse, I just want to kind of point out, they all wear their shirts today. Obviously, they're kind of unified in the front. So where that came about is kind of in team building, strategic planning for each department. So each department was kind of tasked with come up with a vision, come up with a mission, and kind of come up with your kind of values that you see at a department level. What we'll ideally do is bring that kind of that same concept and talk about what each department kind of came up with in the council strategic planning process. There, one say, hey, this is where we're at department wise, and then, what does council want to go, for? So just want to give kind of a shout out to him on that. They did a great job on it, and all the departments are working really hard and really taking it seriously and doing well. Quick update on the groundwater storage tank. We got the notice of approval through TCEQ, so that's moving forward. We should be looking, I think we're still on timeline for beginning the competitive bid process in January. That'll take about 30-ish plus days. Once we get the competitive bids back, then staff will bring the competitive bids to council, with any recommendations, and then council will approve or go out for rebid on those. But once we get those back, council will then approve it, and if timeline goes according to the timeline, then they should break ground, I believe, in April, May?
Yeah, I believe it was late April or May.
Yeah, late April, May, if everything goes well with the timeline. So, so far, everything is on track and kind of moving forward, so more to follow on that.
So are there any expectations or anticipations of material shortage for the job?
We haven't heard any yet. We don't know. we're still kind of trying to figure all that out. You know, the laws are, not to say laws are shifting, but the way procurement's happening is, it's adjusting how things are coming. So I think we're gonna know more a little bit in the competitive bidding process, but we haven't heard anything from other cities that are having issues with it. We just won't know yet. So waste management, this is quick, unfortunate, but we still have time to do it. Waste management, you know, put us on notice, meaning we've had a evergreen contract, which kind of just went into perpetuity until one or both parties, or either party said, hey, it's time to move on. Waste management basically said, hey, we've been in business for 34 years. We need to reevaluate this. So we have 2 years to do it. February of 2024 is when council has to kind of make a decision. So we have time, more to follow on that. I just wanted to put that out there that we are beginning the research.
Okay, and I just wanted to say too, Waste Management said they'd like to enter into negotiations with us, so let's not scratch them.
No.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So we're not scratching them, because of the public, you know, health and safety. Again, this is one thing that, you know, kind of after today's stuff, do we want to go out for competitive bid? It may be something that we look at. So we may not scratch it, but we also, because of the unique situation, and after kind of today's thing, I don't disagree with that. We may say, you know what, we should go out for competitive bid. So
It never
we're gonna-
hurts.
So
We got time to look at that.
yeah, so
2
we
years
got a
down
couple
the
years to
table,
do
so.
that. We have some time, so, just an update. All right, home rule. This presentation will only take an hour. So home rule is, you know, what is home rule? We're a type A general law. Won't dive into it too much, but basically we follow the state statutes and the legislation. Powers are really not, and the way that the actual statute's kind of written is the powers are not afforded to the residents, they're afforded by the state of Texas. As a home rule city, the difference is the city, the citizens, not council, these citizens write a charter, basically write a constitution, that ultimately derives what the city does, where it goes, how it goes, the duties, responsibilities, and the whole 9 yards. Typically, councilors are not a part of that. An attorney of some sort is, to kind of help facilitate that process. But ultimately, it's a charter commission that would be formed. Really, the only requirement by state law is the city has to self-declare, or by census or by numbers, that were over 5,000 or over. Even with the facilitation of that, it could shift a little bit. Based off of the numbers we're running, we're sitting at 1,977 taps. Even if we took out 77 taps for city facilities, commercial, whatever, this 2020 census is showing about 2.85 people per home. That would put us over 5,000. The next step would be, tonight is strictly, do we want to move forward with researching this process and kind of bringing the players to the table to say, okay, we want to pursue this a little bit further. So talking with the attorney, seeing, you know, getting the charter commission formed, and really kind of bringing in the experts on that to see if this is a direction. So this is tonight of saying, no, we don't even want to go home rule, don't even research it, don't even waste the time, or no, I think this is a good opportunity to pursue this.
There's so many good things that we can do with home rule that we can't do now. We can expand the board or the council. We can set alternate terms.
Terms.
You know, we don't have a complete turnover at one time.
The
I
staggering
mean, there's
terms.
so many things that we can do if the
Well,
citizens want it.
And the
So
biggest thing is the residents can,
the
the
can
residents
determine
are in
that.
charge.
It's
Yeah.
if the residents want to do it.
Yeah.
So-
And most
yeah.
of them have told me they want to do that, those particular items. That's the reason I brought them up.
So
It does
one-
put power with them.
Yeah, so I would say probably the biggest things, and again, as this process goes through, most home rule cities, you can look up fact sheets for various ones. And we would have, once we start going through the process, we would start getting a fact sheet developed out that would show this. I would say, outside of the many factors, for Morgan's Point Resort, the staggering of the terms is a big one. We couldn't do it in the legislation just for, they can't play well in the sandbox. Which again, goes back to the whole point of kind of the home rule is, we're relying on the state to have stability of government because we have to follow the state statute. In a home rule, the power truly becomes with the citizens, more so than in a general law city. For example, general law, you can't do initiatives and referendums. You know, you can't put stuff on the ballot. It's based off of state. Where in a home rule city, you can actually have the voters do recalls, do initiatives, do referendums, which means they really drive the train on what happens at the government level. So it really truly puts more power into the voters' hands as a community, than it does strictly off of what's going on in the state, and every 2 years it changing.
I don't think we have to vote on this.
Well, we can't, it's not on.
No,
it's not on the
so-
agenda.
so-
The main thing is, he wouldn't bring it up, do we want him to proceed with it and try to bring it to?
My suggestion would be that you have a meeting, whether it's through your coffee or whatever, and get put it out there what it means to the residents, and let them tell you, see what, I would do that, I'd do a first meeting with them, because it's all about them. They're gonna write the charter, they're gonna be on the commission.
And
You know.
so really, and kind of the first step, or I would say a step of it would be is if council's like, you know what, I think we should open this up, and, because again, it starts with council. And it goes, and we say, hey, I think we wanna start pushing, a commission, or a charter commission together, there's a timeline on it, I can send y'all what that would look like.
So basically, you need us to tell you to spend time doing this.
Correct. I mean, because again, if yes, we do need the citizens, but the entire process is actually getting the citizens' opinions, comments,
Right.
strengths, what they want to do. I mean, really, they're the ones meeting every single month, writing the charter that is going to ultimately drive the city.
Right.
So I think the citizen comment opinion is exactly that, is going through the process of it.
I think that we're all in agreement on that, let's proceed with it, and, like I say, we can always bail out, but I don't think there'd be any
Correct.
reason to bail out, but, anyway, we're gonna have to proceed with that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go move on through, and, Donna, do you have any,
The auxiliary gave me their report. They wanted to thank people that came out to support the pancake breakfast for Santa Pile, the holiday bake sale. They wanted to thank people. They sold out of everything, delicious stuff. They helped out at the Santa Claus thing, which, by the way, was a fabulous city event. Every city department was involved with it. Cops, library, auxiliary, fire department, Jesse's crew driving me around on the hayride and coming helping me, the police department. I mean, it's truly a fabulous city event, and the auxiliary were a big part of it. They did Christmas stockings and gift bags for their volunteer firefighters. Gave them a $10 Walmart gift in their stocking too. Right now, they're in the process of doing the Christmas lighting, so they're taking a whole week going around the city doing the lighting contest. Their next scheduled thing is they're planning a fundraiser on an Alaskan cruise in August. So you might get with one of them if you want to book a cabin on that. They get some good prices on it. They're looking forward to 2022, and she encourages people to go, her auxiliary members and others, to go to the coffee with the city manager, council meetings, and come to their Mortgage Point Volunteer Auxiliary, and to follow them on Facebook.
Are they still doing the Valentine's?
Pardon me?
Are they still doing the Valentine's?
I think that was postponed again. Yeah.
We have a meeting on the 16th for events, so.
Yeah, event meeting, any of y'all that want to come to it, we're gonna have all our department heads there, anybody that, and clubs in the city, organizations in the city this week. We're gonna get a yearly calendar together, contact people so that we get super organized on this. And thank you, Dalton, for coming up with that idea.
Donna, do you have any other comments?
Nope, I'm done.
You're done? Look, Bruce, what about you?
Well, I know the crowd kind of thinned out a little bit, but I just wanted to thank everybody for coming tonight.
Die hard.
We run them off.
We kind of went on long, but seriously, I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll see y'all again after the New Year's here. And I'm excited that we had that many people show up tonight.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry
Robbie,
Christmas.
would you?
I'd echo what Bruce said. Merry Christmas and everybody have a happy new year. Be safe.
Be safe. Larry?
Yeah, I've done some research on that home deal, and if anybody wants to go on YouTube, Professor John M. Seymour, who's in instruction government classes down at El Paso. The video is 21 minutes and 57 seconds long. The name of the video is City Governments in Texas. It will give you it will break it down for you, and it might change a lot of your minds, because it tells you exactly what we can do as home rule cities versus what general law cities can do. But it's a good video. And he is a qualified professor that teaches government classes.
Good.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that. Thanks, sir. John?
I'm good.
Dalton?
Oh, no, I already had mine.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Well, thank y'all for being here. Merry Christmas
move
to
we
everyone.
adjourn.
Appreciate you being here. I'll entertain a motion to
You got
adjourn.
it, you got it.
Got it? Take it. All in favor? Yep, everybody's good. Thank y'all.